welcome to the RevOps Party, aka RevOps Playbook to scale your company from 1 million to 10 million and beyond. I am Pragya, your host from RevGenius, and I have three fantastic speakers who are going to educate us and answer all our questions. So, without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Lior, who is going to be our moderator as well as a speaker and who's going to guide this conversation. Over to you, Lior.
Thank you, Pragya. Hi, everyone. My name is Lior, and I'm based in Tel Aviv, Israel. I work at Blink Ops as the Director of Revenue Operations. And actually, this is the fourth company that I'm building a RevOps team from the ground up. So we're happy to have you here. Before we introduce ourselves, we're just going to wait for more people to join. So if you want, you can just write in the chat where are you coming from, um, share your LinkedIn profile. I can see the more people are joining. Let's wait another minute. Oh, hi, Nadav from Israel. Shabbat Shalom.
Ooh, Stockholm.
Yeah. New York City, India. Hi, everyone. Germany. Welcome.
Is Germany going to win the Euros this year?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I
They,
think I hear predictions of France Germany final, but
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay, I think we can start. We have 40 people. So, yeah, so let's start. So, hi, everyone. So, thank you for joining us. I'm Lior again from Tel Aviv, Israel, Director of Revenue Operations at Blink Ops. I think I've been doing revenue operations before it was called revenue operations. So I'm super excited to be here today and share my experience because I have experienced working companies that scaled from 1 to 10 million, from 7 million to 14 and such. And I think we're going to have a great discussion discussing not just the best practices, but also, how companies or even startups are hiring revenue operations at the very early stage. For example, this is what happened at Blink, and how companies and founders are utilizing data to actually and really become data-driven and support the decision-making process. And I think we'll have like a fantastic time to discuss that. And again, you can share your questions in the chat. We're here to answer everything that you find interesting. And I'll give the microphone to you, Ping, to introduce yourself as well.
Thank you, Liora. I'm Ping Del Judice, and I'm based out of Brooklyn, New York. I'm the VP of Revenue Operations at a company called EV Connect. Mobility is going to be huge, if not already. My RevOps career started almost 20 years ago now at a multinational company based out of Sydney, Australia, actually, in a role that would be, I guess, considered sales ops today. Similar to Liora, been in the field before it was officially called what we know today. And from there, I moved to San Diego, California with that same company. And then from there, I moved to New York and learned all about startups and scale-ups. And I got hooked at the building and the fast pace and being okay, making mistakes and learning from it quickly and then pivoting quickly. And I've since built RevOps from the ground up at 3 startups. And then this is actually my 3rd scale-up. So super excited to be here. And thank you for joining. And with that, I will pass it on to Scott.
Hello, Scott Edmonds. I'm here in San Francisco. I currently am CRO at Synchrony, which is a data automation provider, largely based on the West Coast, but a fully remote company. I've done a number of I'm kind of innately drawn to early stage sales opportunities. I joined Marketo at $0 in revenue. So I have an interesting 0 to 10 story from that. But I have also spent some time internationally as well. So Lior, when I opened up Marketo's Ireland office, and I spent a lot of time in Tel Aviv as part of that territory when we were over there, and then I moved to Australia in Sydney and spent a couple years opening up the office there, Pink. So nice to meet you both again.
Great. So let's start to dive in a little bit. So today we're discussing how to scale a company from 1 million to 10 million. And I think the first questions, or maybe the first topic that would be very interesting to hear from you guys, and I'll share my insights as well, is how you use metrics or identify key metrics and KPIs that helps you monitor the performance of the teams, of the company, and basically help you, become more data-driven in your decision-making process.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. From that data side, I'm somebody who doesn't know how to make decisions without data. So I tend to want to capture more than I think I need, because I've often found myself going back, oh, what was our pipeline as of January 1st? Oh, I don't know. I don't have that. Dang, I wish I had captured that data. So, and also when you're at the 1 million to 10 million stage, I feel like you're still trying out new tactics and putting on new projects. So you don't necessarily know what you may need. Having said that, with whichever projects or tactic that you're trying, make sure you give yourself success criteria, right? Like within 30 days, I like to see XYZ. If I don't see XYZ, it's time to pivot. Or if I see more than XYZ, all right, how do I put more power into that? The typical things like lead source and why are you winning deals and why are you losing deals? Like conversions of how many emails and phone calls and meetings and stage to stage. Capture more than you think you need. That's my 2 cents.
Well, it makes sense. When I joined Blink, my current company, and I also advising some like early stage startups. Usually, they want to measure everything because they bring us to the company and they ask like, okay, so you're the expert, let's build like a process and have like tons of metrics. And I think the first recommendation that I always say is measure what matters. I can, from my experience, I think that, once you measure or build like a very, very complex process, you might be lost in translation, or you won't be able to actually measure what really matter for the company to grow. And actually we see that. I can tell in my company, for example, we now grew to almost 2 million ARR. And again, we don't measure everything. We measure like the specific performance of the sales team, the SDRs, and of course, marketing, especially top of the funnel, like understand how much pipeline we generate, and we're not even, and I think, for example, one of the most recent revolution, and I'm saying that revolution because I'm used to throughout my career to measure that, like, don't focus, for example, in marketing, like inbound, top of the funnel, don't focus on the MQL generation. Like, I think, and this is something that we're all starting to realize and align, that every go-to-market team, whether it's sales, marketing, or customer success, we should all be aligned to the company KPIs, which means revenue, right? So it's like moving towards that as well.
I think I like the idea that there's a 30-day experiment window. I like that idea a lot because, from 1 to 10, you are experimenting a lot. There's a core thesis you're constantly proving, but there's interesting ideas that everybody has, and having the wherewithal to go run those experiments. But everybody needs the ability to say whether this experiment has been a failure or a success, and like, what does that mean? So setting whatever that is, if I don't see 20 conversions by 30 days, whatever your number is, then I'll deem this a failure and we'll stop this experiment or something like this. I think is extremely important, because otherwise there's just a lot of experiments that nobody ever knows if they worked or didn't work. But I think also on the KPIs, it's important to everybody's very, very intent on benchmarking to a company that they used to be at, I think. And oftentimes those have been bigger companies. So like, compare yourself to a $5 million company, $10 million company, $20 million company versus, Salesforce's KPIs, for example, which are all pretty public.
I agree. And also, I think that, defining KPIs, and I really like the 30 days experiment because it helps you to be more reactive, in real time instead of just proactive. And I think in my past, we managed project, and then after Q or 2 Qs, like we've analyzed the data and then realized that we should have done take a different approach. And then if we would time out that, I think back then it would allow us to be more reactive, instead of just wasting 6 months, to get the same result, that this is a failure, right? So I totally resonate with that. Cool. So, so when it comes to KPIs, and you mentioned Salesforce, and you mentioned, using, tools to do that. So which tools are you using, or how do you explore the tools and technologies that you use at your company to support you in not just setting the process, but also, making sure that using them, you'll get the KPIs and the metrics that you need to learn more about the behavior or the decision-making process?
Want me to go first?
Sure, go ahead, Scott.
Go ahead. We try to keep the stack simple. I mean, I think, we run Salesforce is our CRM. We run Marketo as our marketing automation system. We run, we have a couple different data providers to make sure that there's so many good data providers that are easy to do business with and easy to buy. I personally am liking Cognizant a lot. I'm liking Ample Market, which is also a prospecting tool that has a lot of data baked into it. I find that stuff pretty powerful. But like overbuilding the stack is actually going to create a lot of problems long haul. I think also just like one flag. I think that every person who is in any kind of operations role here, if you're early, man, set up. I know it's an additional seat and it's additional money for this, but set up an integration user and just make sure that every executive has passwords to the integration user. Even for something simple like just setting up the Cognizant integration tool or data tool, because if people leave at early stage startups, it just happens, right? And so if you've got the integration user everybody's got the password to, or all the executives have the password to, it saves so many problems long haul.
Yeah, Scott, I definitely agree with you on the keeping it simple and not overbuilding the stack. Integration user, I actually just experienced that. We had a user who left the company who was the integration user, the name itself, not a generic integration user. So now we're set up the integration user, trying to change all the tech stack. Thankfully, we don't have too many technologies. CRM is vital. You need to make sure that you're tracking all your sales activities. Data provider for sure. I am a fan of recording calls, especially at the early stage, because I feel like that's where you can hear it live, hear it firsthand, right? If things get lost in translation, oh, this prospect told me this. No, you can hear exactly what the prospect says. Send it to product, send it to whoever might need to hear it. I am all for automation, automating whatever you can. But going back to the earlier point of, there'll be a lot of experiments that you're doing at an early stage. I think we should watch out for potentially over automating. It might sound counterintuitive. Try to explain. So if you are trying to figure out how to automate something and you realize, oh, this automation is going to take me a good week, maybe let's not spend that time yet creating the automation. Going back to the success criteria. Hey, did I hit the success criteria? If I did, all right, let's spend a little bit more time and effort on the automation and syncing up the different technologies you might be using. Because you might find yourself, Scott is smiling, he's about to say something about Syncari.
I have a question. I have a question for you.
Please.
I think this is right. Everybody thinks, like I'm a huge fan of automation too, but like I also think that like in early stage, automation can be bad because then we become sort of beholden to the automation. There's a lot of manual work, and there's a lot of manual work that's important in early stage, right? And so the more you automate it, the more, some lessons get lost, right? And so I guess what I'm curious about in your experience is what are good things to automate in early stages?
Things that, like, if reps is writing an email, they should just sync to the CRM. They shouldn't have to then say, oh, I wrote an email to this prospect.
For activity capture, no doubt. Yeah.
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 Or, using a sales stage and forecast category, assuming you use those things, if an opportunity or a deal is moved to close one, the forecast category should move accordingly. I know there are different schools of thoughts whether we should tie sales stages to forecast category while the deal is still open. I'm not going to pick a side on this call. But the beginning and the end, like close one, close loss, they should be automated.
No, I totally agree. I think, again, when you optimize a tech stack, you should keep it simple. And Scott, for your question, by the way, I do believe that at early stage, you don't need to automate everything. So for example, in my company, and I did it in previous one as well, like we are not automating, for example, the meetings that SDR are booking for the AEs to measure their performance, because I don't believe that you should automate it based on the calendar and the activity capture, because you really want to understand it, at least at a very early stage, if your best practice or the SDR playbook, whether if it's an inbound or outbound motion, is actually working, and if they're doing their job in a way that actually support the sales team or even the pipe generation, right? And also, I think it helps us. At least I've seen it in Blink, this company, and the previous one. Understand exactly the quality of the leads and how they conduct a research if either they want to build a buying committee, or if they're trying to find a champion versus a decision maker versus an influencer. And I think this allows us as RevOps, and also to support leadership, to understand exactly how they're doing it. And we can also support them, to be better at what they're doing. So instead of just, let them go if they're underperforming, we can help them and, educate them more on how to prospect better, or how to, I don't know, have a better discovery call, before moving the lead to sales.
I saw a question. Can I answer a question that was in the chat? It's kind of related to what we're talking about.
Yeah, sure.
There was the question of like, well, how do you combat some of the sentiments from some people who don't want to do the manual stuff? I think there's a broad swath of what that means, right? And I'm a huge believer in not asking people to do too much admin stuff, right? Just spend time selling. And so, yes, there's a lot of things that can auto capture, like call recordings are obviously, a great tool. Also, I'll date myself here, but if you would have asked me 10, 11 years ago that if we were going to be having 100% of our sales calls recorded, I would have said you were out of your mind. And here we are. And so there's very affordable, very good tools that you can use to do that. Activity capture, that's an obvious one. But I think the manual work, right, is, I think especially when it comes to prospecting, right? Just saying, hey, I sent out a sequence to this prospect. Like, that's not prospecting. I mean, the magic is in the research and in the phone calling and in the LinkedIn work and in the going to an event, inviting somebody to a dinner, things like that is the manual work. And spoiler alert, it works, right? I think the stuff that is annoying is, hey, update the CRM. And the world has changed a lot in 10 years in that regard, with tools that can auto enrich different things so you don't have to update a bunch of fields, etc. I think as long as you set your opportunity up correctly so that people just have to literally spend 15, 20 minutes a week to update their opportunities so that the reports look accurate, that's not manual work, right? That is just the bare minimum that people have to do. So I mean, I'd be curious what people are kind of like pushing back on, in terms of what is manual. But it's, yeah, the idea that if I'm going to be in sales and I'm just going to go ahead and send somebody a 5-step automated baked sequence, and I'm either, oh, it didn't work, right? That's on you, rep. That's work that you're supposed to be doing. That is there's a lot of details and work that goes into that. Same thing for sales process automation, right? Just, you've got to be getting the next steps. You've got to be persuading people. You've got to be calling out other people, even if your prospects aren't helping you to do that. You have to do that stuff. I don't think there's anything you can do to automate any of those things. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
I agree
anyway,
with
so
Scott 100%. There's a reason why you have a base salary. Sorry to be
right,
so
right.
direct. And kind of, I would also encourage you, talk to sales reps. Ask them why, like what is the manual work that you think you have to do
Yeah,
that you don't want to do? Just try to understand from their perspective.
yeah.
Yeah.
If admin is more than 10, 15 minutes a day, then yeah, there's a problem, I think. But most admin, even at that, I think, reps that struggle to do with it, you're gonna have a question about what their what their expectations are. So
Yeah, no, I think, but also with the generation of AI now, we do understand that you cannot build a relationship with automating everything and, just capture all the emails, record the calls, have the transcripts, send the emails like automatically afterwards, just create campaigns and send, emails to a prospect, to raise more awareness about your solution and, to actually book a demo. And I think, well, I can tell you from like what I usually do is I speak with the team, like, and I do encourage everyone to do that. I ask them what is working, what is not working, like what we can do better to help them be better. And also when we bring a new tool to the company, I'm not doing that by myself. Usually I'm adding 1 or 2 team members, to join me to the process, to, help me evaluate the use cases, the pain, the solution, and if it will help them or not. And also when we have a POC, like we're doing it together. And I think this is where they feel, or they can be more engaged because they feel part of the process and they feel that we are trying to help them instead of just helping ourselves or the company to get, like, I don't know, another piece of data that maybe one of the CEO or the CRO wants, just for QBR or I don't know, board presentation, right? So
Yeah, I see a question that Arthur asked. You do anything with the calls, or are they only there to extract information afterwards? I like that a lot. I know I mentioned call recording. A number of things that I would use the recording for. One is definitely for coaching opportunity, right? Hey, I noticed that you mentioned these things when they had, like, you could potentially think about objection handling a different way. Or on the flip side, if somebody has done something really well, I like to do that call out. We are all celebrating success together. Hey, Scott, you answered this question really well from the prospect. Let's throw it in the library so it can be part of onboarding. New sales reps can listen to it. Another thing I also like to use it for is products team, engineering team, feedback that the prospects or the customers are saying, send it to them as is. No translations in between that might get lost. Those are the few things I thought of off the top of my head.
I see another question here, and I think it's a good one. Like, how much hands-on you are with the team? Do you go over with the sales team on specific things that they do or not, usually in the demo, or do you leave that with their managers? I think it's a great question because in my past, so I started my career, by the way, as a lawyer, and then I shifted into marketing and then demand gen, and then I think it was pretty quick when I became sales and marketing ops, and then RevOps. So understanding like the top of the funnel and understanding like sales at the core of it, and chasing everyone, to update opportunities, I remember it was a nightmare. And I used to do it for quite a while, and then at some point I just stopped. And it's not that I left it with the managers. I also and I think this is where you should, and this is where automations are coming. So you don't need to automate. You can also, and I don't call it a validation or enforcement anymore. I'm calling it enabling the team to work with the system and provide the data in a way that they enjoy doing it. I found some creative ways to do that in Salesforce, for example, like filling out forms or just breaking down the process every once in a while. But I'm not that hands-on with the team, and I don't think the managers are as well. I think this is what we're covering. And what we did is we've changed for example, the pipeline overview meetings. So we're making sure that, and it's not blame and shame anymore, but it's more of like we're reviewing the opportunities and we are enforcing them to update next step, for example, and dates. So everyone would know or gain some visibility on the customer journey. But then they're not I'm not hands-on on that. Like once we have this meeting, everyone gets 10 minutes to present the pipeline or the upcoming closed won opportunities as they see it. And I think it gives them the I don't know if it's the power to control their own pipeline, but also it gives them the motivation to come prepared to the meeting and actually have everything there if they're asked a question by either a manager, maybe a VP, or even a CEO if they join the meeting as well.
Yeah, I might say it depends. Depends on what the topic is about. If it's a demo and I hear it on a recorded call, I may also, depending on the relationship that the manager has with the team, my relationship with the manager, I will often lean towards respecting swim lanes. I would initially send it to the sales manager, saying, hey, I heard this, FYI, if you hadn't heard it. If it's something about if we roll out a new tool, I will tend to be a lot more hands-on, at least on the early days, because I definitely want feedback from exactly what is working and what's not working. I don't know, or if I misunderstood the question that you asked. I think, or Kai, you asked that question.
No, yeah, he said he understands. Okay, so we have another question. Actually, it's interesting. We've experienced it a lot in Israel because we have most of the founders are coming from engineering and product position, and then they found the company. So have you been successful at helping to set proper expectation around deal flow and deal speed when it comes to managers that have more experience in engineering and more technical background?
It's a good question. I mean, again, at early stage, what you're looking for, in all of these things, the reason we set KPIs, the reason we have a funnel, the reason we have sales stages is that you're looking for just something that is repeatable, right? I mean, it's pretty rare. I've been part of one or two companies that had like a good market fit from early stages. But, for the most part, you're finding it, the right ICP, the right people, the right companies, the right language to use, et cetera. So there is more equal parts art and science in these early stages. It becomes much more science, I think, later. But engineering, I think the problem that I hear from reporting up there is that there's a very methodological mindset, right? I put in one, I get two out, right? And so why is this not happening, right? And so I think having a clear set of expectations is important, but also having those KPIs is important for an engineer, right? A technical founder, right? Here's the stages. It's going to be a 5-stage process. Here's a clear exit criteria for each one, right? We're losing, 20% of our pipeline at this stage, 10% at this stage, 40% at this stage. I got to figure something out there, right? Let's all talk about it. Those things will carry water. I think the other thing I'd also stress too is that bring these people on sales calls, man, customer calls, right? And if they're so insulated from that, that's a problem too. And if we're talking anything sub 10 million people, we're less than 100 people as a company, right? We're still very, very flat. So share information, right? Bring people around, do meetings in public, and make it a safe place to do, share successes and losses, importantly. So
Yeah,
I don't know. In summary, I think it's just, clear KPIs. Here's the assumptions. Here's the set of assumptions. These assumptions were mostly correct. These were wrong. These were good. I'm going to tweak accordingly, etc.
And I only want to add one thing. Depending what kind of a founder it is, if you have a founder who is often referencing, hey, I read this book and it says X, maybe send them some white paper or reference a book. Speak their language.
Sure. Yeah, I can tell you that I've worked with, technical founders and engineers most of my career, because this is usually what we see here in Israel. And I think what it was working for me, and I think it was working for other peers in the ecosystem, is like we are trying. I think the conversation should be logic, because they understand logic. They understand. Again, Scott, exactly what you said. Like, have set the process, even and again, bring them to the conversation or arrange training also for them, and present the process in a way that will resonate with them, so they would see not just the stages but also the logic behind it. And again, as you mentioned, like entrance exit criteria and the activities that we want to monitor during this stage, and how we're going to implement it, how we're going to show it, and also say like what and I think, and it's okay, like what can be in the first phase, the second phase, the third, and what is most important, and how again you will generate or provide metrics to see if they're aligned with the KPIs or not, instead of just overcomplicating and just automate everything, because usually this is what they want. They want to automate everything. They want to bring the tools. They want to bring like the automated process. AI now it's a thing, so everything should be AI at every department, like marketing, SDR, sales, customer success, everything. And it's just, you don't have to go, like you need to, and once you set recommendations and offer a few solutions, not just one, even 2 or 3, I think they're convinced. And also they love to hear no. Like they love, like, I think it's not, and again, it depends how you say it, but it's not. And again, it's not just saying no, but explaining, let's do this and this if it's not work, and let's have a project right now and focus on that, and we'll see. And usually this is what happens. Like they see that if you go step by step, and if you don't, and you do what they want, you can also prove that with the data, of course, that it doesn't work, or it just, you need to focus on different directions. So
yeah, I feel like documenting it, you said it, Lyra, documenting everything, make sure that the process is clear. Everybody has same definitions of what a specific terminology is. And not just that, got to make sure that there's that sales enablement part of it, right? Like everybody is on the same page. Like, like a process is only as good as if people know about it. Same as technology. If people don't know how to use it, you're just wasting money. Like documentation, enablement.
I think the entrance and exit criteria for the stages is one of the easy. Well, it's a hard thing to do because frankly you don't know the answers. You're doing a best guess on these things. But like it's something even as simple as like, what is pipeline, right? When do we convert it to an opportunity?
Exactly.
That's it's not easy, right? And it's going to change. And so and some people are going to have different opinions, and some people will squawk. But for the most part, you just have to have one, right? This is the definition, and that's usually an agreement between sales and marketing versus the CEO making that decision or RevOps making that decision. It's like, I think this is an opportunity if it meets this criteria, but it's got to be really simple, really clear, right? The second it's like, oh, there's 10 different criteria for people to meet to become an opportunity, man, you get messy pipeline real fast, right? If it's 2-3 criteria, great, right? Everybody can rock to that. And then I think everything too, there's a lot of gut feels, like, oh, this feels like a stage 3 now because I had this call. Oh, well, did we do these 2 things? Well, no, we didn't do that, right? So it's pipeline's out of weight now. I think the criteria has to be very crisp, and that's harder to do. I mean, I've messed that up plenty of times, and it's hard to do. But
okay, so we have another great question. So what will be your do or die leading and lagging metrics for marketing SDR AEs while you're at 1 million ARR?
Pipeline coverage. I'm not being very specific with leading or lagging. I feel like people potentially are only looking at current month or current quarter and kind of forgetting about that rolling pipeline. If you don't have pipeline coverage for next quarter and your sales cycle is 6 months, you're screwed.
yeah, I think it depends a lot on what segment and what you're selling. You know, is this a 30-day sales cycle or a 6-month sales cycle, to your point, right? So I think it's pipeline coverage, but also, are you working these opportunities, right? I mean, there's plenty of times where even if it's a long sales cycle, it doesn't mean there shouldn't be any activities every week on these opportunities, right? There's lots of things to do. And so you do look for, you know, are we communicating? Are we having meetings? Are we, you know, there might be, you know, a month or two worth of work to get from one stage to another. That can be okay if that's the rule. That's just how this market works. But if it's also like this is a 2 to 3 call close and a 2-person buying committee, you know, I think, yeah, you're just looking for straight up pipeline, right? And, you know, is this really qualified pipeline, et cetera?
I agree. I think, yeah, pipe generation is the most important. And I think you should also focus on, and this is something that I've seen as well, like usually companies at 1 million or a bit more are focusing mostly on inbound. And I think like inbound motions or more of, you know, marketing campaigns. But you also need to think about the outbound, like think about prospecting and invest on that as well. And I think doing that at the early stage allows you, you know, to maybe better analyze not just the sales cycle, but also, you know, the ICP definition and and get a better understanding on, you know, what should be the like at least, you know, to close the deal fast or get to a POC for instance. You know, what would be the perfect buying committee for now? Like how can I get, and again, it's not just bringing the decision maker to the table, but at least, you know, understand like the type of efforts we need to invest to move the pipeline in motion, and not just, you know, aim for closed won deals. At least this is what I've been saying.
Yes. Yeah. If you're waiting for disclosed lawn, it's too late.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think, and again, I think, you know, the traditional way of just, you know, rely on metrics like, you know, closed won, closed loss, like the obvious one, how many meetings were booked. I think, well, I'm experiencing it myself. Like, this is how I change also my mindset. It's no more black and white, right? Like, we need to understand like pipe generation in 2 different angles, and we need to invest maybe or be more creative. And I think this is how AI sometimes can help, you know, with tooling and everything. Like, you know, because eventually you need to generate pipeline, as Ping, as you said, like you need to make sure that you are entering your quarter with a pipeline, or at least plan a few months ahead. Because if you don't, like, then you're screwed, right? You don't have pipeline, you don't have deals, you don't even have POCs. So yeah.
I got a question for Ping. Can I?
Sure, go for it.
Something we talked about launching this one is close loss reasons. I think this is a pretty key one that people give short shrift to as well, right? And same sort of a thing as sales stages, right? There might be like 20 close loss reasons, and that's not very useful, right? Yeah. And so, you know, or you know, 3, 4. I'm not sure that's useful either. There's a happy medium, right? And they all have to be same sort of a thing. They have to be crisp, right? And they have to really fit into something manageable buckets, right? AKA, like, it was a product thing, it was a budget thing, it was a, you know, it's difficult to put like poor execution into a sales loss reason, even though oftentimes it is an execution problem. But like I don't know. Do you have an opinion on how many sales stages is good?
Sales stage or close
Oh,
loss
I'm sorry.
reason, you meant?
Close loss reasons. How many close loss reasons is good?
Yeah. That's a tricky question, Scott.
Yes.
I want to say right around 5 because
Okay.
things like budgeting, you could go down the rabbit hole. Budgeting could be, is it because our pricing is too high? If so, I want to know that, right? Or is it because they don't have the money, right? Or is the budgeting because we've lost the sales cycle, the budget cycle for this quarter, this year, whatever it might be, that it's actually pushed out? Then it's actually timeline. I could get myself into this analysis paralysis for sure. I try to stick to it right about 5. What are your thoughts, Scott and Leora?
No, I don't think there's a correct answer. I think you're probably right though. I think kind of between like 5 and 5, 6, 7. I don't know, but again, as long as they're clear, that's the hardest part because everybody thinks that their ICP is pretty unique, and oftentimes it is. So, I don't know. I think it takes a collaboration internally to decide what those are.
Yeah, and I'm also curious on your opinion on putting other and then putting an open field, because a part of me is always afraid that I'm missing something, right? Maybe if I give you 5 buckets, there's something that doesn't fit. You just pick one that's not the right one. I want to hear from you.
As long as it's inspected, I think it can be okay, right? I mean, again, we're sub 10 million, right? So we're less than 100 people. So it's not like there's a massive organization that we need to parse gargantuan amounts of data, right? It's if we're looking at a closed loss and there's another with a description, we got to talk about it versus like, oh, interesting, right? We're trying to tune constantly to find something repeatable.
Yeah, and maybe I should add too, for the loss reasons, I typically, when I look at why opportunities have been lost, I like to split it out. Is it something that we had control over or something that we didn't have control over?
Exactly. Yes.
If it's the former, what can we do to change that?
That's right.
Yeah.
I just want to say.
Yeah, and I think because that also that'll inform everything on the process too. Like, I mean, we've made changes to our process at Synchrony, noticing that like, oh, hey, loss reasons are pretty heavy here because of this specific ICP. We're going to tune who we qualify to put into pipeline, right? And so it's
totally.
Yeah.
So how do you use documentation for that? For example, like how do you make sure that everyone is aligned with the loss reasons?
I think that if you can, right, a monthly loss review is a good idea. And that should be as many people as possible. So you're not doing a game of telephone up to your technical founder or whatever. Like, bring that person in, right? And I think there needs to be clear sets of engagement. This is not a place to rake somebody or make people feel bad or anything. It's just truly a place to iterate and learn, right? Because there could be feature requests, there could be pricing discussions for marketing, there could be whatever. And there just has to be a safe place to talk about that stuff. It's really important because a lot of times people move pretty quickly past the loss reviews. Oh, we lost 20 opportunities this quarter. Oh well, right? On to the next quarter, right?
Yeah.
But like talking about that stuff, and I think it should be something regular. Monthly, especially sub 10 million is, maybe sub 5 million is probably a pretty good idea. Because you're not talking hundreds of ops, right? You're talking about pretty manageable things, and what do we do right, and what do we need to do better?
I agree. And by the way, do you differentiate between lost reasons that, or lost opportunities that were moved to close lost, at the, like, let's say, at a more advanced stage versus, having, I don't know, stage 0 or maybe the first stage of discovery or technical assessment to close lost, and differentiate between not just the reasons, but also, the how you analyze or how you manage that in your either CRM or as a metric?
So like, yeah, I'm only doing late stage stuff where we've gone through discovery or something like this.
Okay.
I mean, is that what you're saying, or?
No, I'm saying, like, for example, so we have stage 0 of the opportunity, which means that we this is an SQL. We consider it as an opportunity because we do see potential of this.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for, I would say, like, yeah, we have a stage 1. We don't have a stage 0. Stage 1 is like, hey, there's a call scheduled we'll see what happens. So we don't count that as pipeline. Stage 2 is actual pipeline, so we only report as 2 on. Because often, like, I think that a lot of the things that do need to get tuned is discovery, big time, big time. Are we asking the right kind of questions, and what are good questions to ask? So you win and lose deals in discovery stage, and so getting that stage right is very important.
Yeah. And how you, by the way, making sure that a discovery stage, and again, I have the same challenge in my company, and I had it at every company, basically, from becoming a parking lot, like, AEs, they want to be, like, they want to have a stable pipeline, or they don't want to move opportunities through like advanced stages, so they can forecast or not forecast opportunities that will maybe become closed lost, for example.
Back to the importance of manual work here, right? I mean, this is where I think managers and co-founders really need to lean in, be like, cool, let's talk about your 10 ops, right? And that I don't think there's just any substitute for talking about things, right? There's no AI and there's no automations that can fix that. You gotta understand what's going on and discuss what's happening.
But are you timing out, for example, the stage, like having like an opportunity can be 30 days, 60 days under stage discovery, and if not, then you either flag it as risk, or just having a conversation about like opportunities or chunk of opportunities that are parked under stage discovery for more than, I don't know, 60, 90, 100 days, like, and not moving to closed loss, for example.
If there are activities, did you say there's no activity? It's just parked there? Like, if there's activities, I would be more okay with it. If it's just sitting there with no activities, like, is it real? Are you just clogging pipeline?
Plus 100 on that thought. That was perfect.
Yeah. Okay, so we have another reason. You want to say something, Ping?
No, I was just going through the question as well, coming from the top. What is your opinion about a sales enablement position? To me, sales enablement is key if done right. If done right is key. Because to me, sales enablement isn't just training and throwing information at people. Nobody wants to hear that, like being lectured on. No. If you are there showing people what's in it for them and including them as part of the process, again, if done right, it's crucial. That's my opinion.
And do you think we should have, like, a company at a very early stage should hire a sales enablement function, or it can be part of marketing or even RevOps?
Yeah, I can speak from personal experience. I feel somewhat comfortable with doing sales enablement. So if I'm the only RevOps hire, I will take on sales enablement. But if you were somebody who's like, I'd rather work on the tech stuff, somebody who's better than me at sales enablement should take this, then I would say, yeah, that should probably be your first hire, assuming you can grow your team.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's a hard thing to do too, because again, there is no gold-plated thing that works yet, right? So I think that yes, there kind of needs to be somebody to do it. How do I make the tools work correctly? What's a good discovery call? Hey, coach me on my pitch. Am I good? Do I suck? Right? I think that stuff is important. But man, I mean, everybody, if you're hiring anybody, back to I think the question earlier on of like people who don't want to do the manual work, right? People who want to do a sub 10 million revenue startup need to be self-starters, right? You can't be waiting around for somebody to teach you how to do something. You've got to ask for help. And so.
I agree. So we have another good question. Do you have any tips to create a stronger synergy between SDR and the sales team?
Do they sync up regularly?
Don't do remote work.
It might be a little trickier this day and age, but.
Yeah, I know.
No, I think it's a good question. I think because usually I hear about, trust issues sometimes with SDRs and AEs, or sometimes, even AEs, they don't they want to do the prospecting themselves or the reach out, especially, for example, after events, because they don't trust SDRs. And I hear that a lot lately, actually. And I was wondering if there is some way we can, like, RevOps can support both teams, to make sure that they are building trust or having more conversations with one another, I think. And as you mentioned, like, yeah, you need to speak with them. Usually what they do is just they book the meeting, hand it over, and then just done with everything. They're not sitting with one another to actually learn more about, I don't know, the company, the person, some takeaways, takeouts, something that they got from
And maybe make the feedback loop easier. I know Leary mentioned what can RevOps do. Like
Yeah.
if it's creating a report that they are sharing with each other, or they looking at the same reports, and making, again, communication, right? The feedback loop, make it as easy as possible for them. If it's capturing the data or if it's showing the data, communication, easier said than done.
That's true. That's true. What type of reports, by the way, you built for SDRs and AEs, as part of setting a community or a standard of communication?
Yeah, assuming that the SDR target is qualified meetings or SQL,
Right.
like out of the SQL that have been passed on, how many progress, how many don't progress, and why? And from the AE side, if there aren't as many SQLs being passed upon, like the why, right? Making it visible. If they're just guessing and like, oh, you're not doing your job because I don't think you are, like, let's give them something concrete.
Yeah, that makes sense. Any thoughts about RevOps team budget for sub 10 million startups? Another question that we got from
What do they need to buy? No, that's not entirely a joke. There's obviously things that they need to buy, but but I am curious kind of what the flavor of that question is.
So
Like,
this
is it like they need to buy a CRM, or they need to buy they need to hire people? I'm just kind of curious.
I assume both. I think one of like the biggest for Drake, by the way, this is your question. So, so he said, okay, so maybe look at defining, implementing SLAs for each side that are mutually beneficial.
Headcount, team budget.
And more
Yeah, I
around
don't know.
team budget.
I think it just depends on what it is you think you need. To Drake's point there, right? It's I mean, sub 10 million. Well, it depends on exactly. Okay, here's one thing I will say for RevOps, right, is that we sell a lot to RevOps, and so the definition of what RevOps is varies wildly between company to company, and so sometimes it's hey, keep the CRM clean. Sometimes it's hey, make sure you do commissions and comp and you manage territory. So I think it just depends, right? Uh, I've not seen a finite definition of what RevOps responsibilities are from company to company. So if it's some things like, hey, you're in charge of finance ops on top of the CRM stuff and sales comp, et cetera, yeah, there should probably be a couple staff on that, maybe. But it depends on what the responsibilities are, I think, is what it comes down to.
I agree. Okay, another questions. I think we're also running out of time, so it's a good one. What are the do's and don'ts or tips for asking for referrals? When it's too early to do, when it's too early or too late?
Referrals from customers?
It's never too early.
Never too early. Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe also do and don'ts and tips that we can share about, what to do as RevOps leaders, like maybe in terms of process, metrics, automation.
Oh, no longer referrals. We're moving away from the referral question.
Yeah, I think so. Like maybe sharing some do's and don'ts that we do, like we recommend when it comes to revenue operations or a relationship that we have or manage with the go-to-market team.
Yeah, I know I was the one who early on said capture more data than you think you need, but don't try to go into the analysis paralysis phase. Sometimes, trust your gut instinct. They're often correct. I'll start with that.
I'll move to start to say no. I truly believe in that. Really, I think once you learn how to say no, it will help you. I don't know if you just be better at what you do, but also succeed. And I think usually what whenever I join a company, or they ask me, if I what would be my recipe for success. I think it's just communication, transparency, and again, and it's not just saying no, but at least we are if we are joining a company as professionals, and we want to support and help the company to achieve the KPIs and the goals. So we have to, again, it's not just saying no, but just leave, but say no and offer a solution, offer an alternative, offer something that will help, maybe will prove your point in a way that will do good with the company, will do good with the teams, will do good with the users. Yeah. So this is mine.
This is the how to say the question again.
What are the do's or don'ts or tips that you can share with the audience today about how to build processes, tech stack, or anything that's related to revenue operations, to support the go-to-market teams or the company?
Look, I mean, I think we covered the majority of the do's don'ts. I mean, don't over build something, don't buy too much stuff, stay nimble, stay flexible, capture all the data, but summarize it so that it's very simply used and people don't have to parse through a bunch of stuff to try to understand something very simple. But I think it all comes down to winning, right? Feeling good about what you guys are doing and trying to find, so I mean, I think, it's all hands on deck selling, right? See if help prospect, right? Do some of the job, help source leads, get referrals, right? I mean, I think anything like that, sub $5-10 million just is so visible and so impactful that if anybody, if oh, that's not my job, if anybody can help contribute pipeline and learn something, do it. Even as a CRO, I love working a couple deals because it gives me confidence that the process is working and I can teach, versus saying, oh, here's the process, just run this process, right? Oh, why haven't we done this and that? If I can't make something work, it does it. And I think that goes for almost anybody in the company to, a certain extent.
Great tips, guys. Great tips. Would you change your career path after being RevOps for a few years and choose something else?
Nope, I wouldn't. No. And I can confidently say that because I took a break last year for a few months, which was really lovely. And I decided this is what I like doing, what I'm good at, and I want to continue doing it. No. And maybe I can add, Leora, I can add on to what you said earlier, say no and give the reasons. If people are coming you with requests, something I've learned is ask them the question of, hey, what problems are you trying to solve?
I agree.
That's key. Sorry, Scott.
I've never been RevOps, so I don't know.
True.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I agree. Well, I don't think we have any questions other than that. So we do have 1.5 minutes. So if you want to share something else, do that.
Thank you, all of you, for this amazing session. And I saw that we had so many questions and we actually managed to answer almost all of them. If there are no more questions, I will give you back 30 seconds extra today. But yeah, before we go, I just want to say thank you so much, Lior, for moderating. Thank you so much, Scott, for your infinite wisdom. And thank you so much for being here as well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Bye-bye. See you in another session.
Bye-bye.